The Chenier Plain is one of the most globally significant ecoregions that we have, really in all of the Western Hemisphere.
This is one in a million. We love our coast. We love the hunting, the fishing, the family atmosphere that it brings.
This is a breach. Over the last 75 years, this 119,000-acre Chenier Marsh has been under assault.
What are some of the major threats to this system?
Sea level rise, saltwater intrusion.
When you start cutting channels through an area, you change the internal plumbing.
Hurricane Ike did a whole lot of damage. Also, there's always that threat of another oil spill.
Our economy was hurt years ago, so we're trying to restore what we lost.
Millions of birds migrate to this area in the wintertime. It's very important we maintain what we have, and the first step is to protect our coastline.
So we're in the Houston, Port Arthur, Beaumont area of Texas. Some 50+% of the nation's oil that we produce here in the U.S., as well as our imported oil, is refined here in this particular area. It's also home to a large military base. Amidst all of this industrial complex is one of the most ecologically diverse and rich areas in North America. It's called the Chenier Plain, and it stretches from the Houston area all the way over to the southwest portion of Louisiana, some 5 million acres of wetlands and marshes.
This is one of the most important areas for wintering waterfowl and wading birds and shorebirds and all of North America. It's particularly important as a larval or nursery area for finfish and shellfish. And of course, the marshes and dunes play a critically important role in the resilience of these communities as the first line of defense against storm surges in the Gulf of Mexico.
When a storm comes ashore, the water hits this rough area, right? And that knocks the energy down.
Well, this is John Foray, and he's a wetland ecologist with NOAA.
But when you lose the habitat, you lose that ability. And so saltwater intrusion is one of the largest factors that the Chenier Plain is facing as far as a detriment to habitat. And that the plant communities can't respond quick enough when the water changes from a fresh to a salt environment. Leads to plant death, leads to marsh breakup, and so it weakens the landscape as a whole. When you weaken the landscape, it reduces the storm surge buffer that happens.
We're very, very dependent on this area because of the fresh water. And it is a beautiful day.
This is Dow Gene Anderson, and Dow's a local resident here in the Chenier Plain and a hunting and fishing guide. Dow, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're going to see today?
We're going to see a levee that's breached in Sabine Lake in a 1,200-acre freshwater reservoir.
Well, let's take a boat ride and go look at it.
Let's do it. See that boat? After Ike, all that came over here from Louisiana. You can see right there is a good example. Storm after storm, high tide after high tide, it just has over time washed away. And herein lies the breach.
So how far in does the salt water actually penetrate into the fresh water?
Well, with it going back and forth, it's going to keep going.
So eventually this entire marsh is threatened and in jeopardy.
Sure, it's going to hurt, you know, the wildlife big time.
So Dow, what's it going to take to fix a breach like this, of this magnitude?
You know, just the owners are not going to be able to afford to do this thing.
They're going to need some help.
Yeah, and of course, this is important to this whole area.
Over decades, the Chenier Plain has literally been nibbled to death by 1,000 paper cuts. There are a myriad of challenges that are confronting this landscape.
The best way to do it is by improving freshwater inflow.
Fortunately, we have strong leadership in the region and very experienced fisheries and wildlife biologists that know how to implement restoration and enhancement projects and initiatives to really help put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
We're
building a rather large berm on McFadden that's preventing coastal waters from washing in.
What we're doing is partnering with industry to do what's called beneficial use of dredged material, where we'll take dredged material, put a layer on top of the marsh that's degrading, let it settle and revegetate so that it'll support a healthy plant population again.
So we have the terrace project here that's just recently constructed, and what this will do is create a windbreak so we can lower the internal shoreline erosion in the marsh here.
Just west of here is called the Holly Beach Breakwater Project. It's using large boulders, Volkswagen-sized boulders, offshore to protect the highway in that particular stretch of the state.
The threats to these coastal wetlands have all been well identified, and there are also a number of solutions. But implementing those solutions takes money. And it's funding that most of these small communities don't have. So many of them are seeking funds that are available after the Deepwater Horizon oil spill and the settlement from British Petroleum.
It's that once-in-a-lifetime kind of money that you never see coming from the federal government.
Over 1,200 miles of shoreline from Florida to eastern Texas were fouled and oiled by the spill. And certainly the Chenier Plain was deeply affected by this.
What you've got is an outdoorsman's paradise down here in the middle of the largest refineries and chemical plants in the world.
All of the leaders in those areas recognize undoubtedly that the health of their communities, the health of their economies are inextricably linked to the health of the ecological systems surrounding them.
If we lose this marshland, if we lose this Chenier Plain, we've now become beachfront at I-10.
For waterfowl hunting, you got to get up early in the morning.
Ed, I got you a gun, and this gun has all the misses taken out of it.
The inner duck hunter in me is emerging, and the host is regressing a little bit. I've been waterfowl hunting a long time. Stay still, don't move. Hunting is as much about a family experience and a connection to the outdoors as it is actually taking the animal and consuming the protein that you get from the land. Pew, pew. Oh, man, I couldn't. Good job. Oh, watch it. There, got him, finally. So if we lose this marsh, we really lose some of the tradition that's very important and the economy that comes with duck hunters coming into this area.
I'm 75 years old. I've been hunting this area right here all my life. So it's very important, not only to me, but to the whole area, because we all depend on it.
Within this 5 million acre landscape, really lives and livelihoods are dependent upon a healthy coast. And so it's critically important that we use this opportunity to invest further in it and help to rebuild and restore and enhance these natural systems, which are so critically important to the future of these communities now and to come.